Welcome to the Close the Chapter podcast. I am Kristen Boyce, a licensed marriage and family therapist with a private practice, Pathways to Healing Counseling. Through conversations, education, strategies, and shared stories, we will be closing the chapter on all the thoughts, feelings, people, and circumstances that don't serve you anymore and open the door to possibilities and the real you. You won't want to miss an episode, so be sure to subscribe. Welcome to this week's Close the Chapter podcast. I am so grateful you're joining me for today's important conversation. You're here because you're on a healing journey. You want to grow, evolve, expand, and I am so glad you're here today. We have not talked a lot about suppression versus repression and why it's important and what it means. So this year, if you feel stuck, and your body responds to triggers and you're confused on why it's responding so intensely, this is most likely what's happening is you're repressing or suppressing emotions, thoughts, feelings, or memories that will help you heal if you can connect, process, and release them or move through them to get to the other side. And so I see with most clients, we all have suppression and possibly some repression that we experience in life. And once we start noticing the difference, we can hold space for curiosity rather than judgment or fear. Because what I see now is if your body is giving you a response, it's time to listen to it. It's time to notice and rumble through what might be going on inside emotionally. So let's break down the differences between repression and suppression, just to give you a definition so we know what we're working with. High level, repression is a protective survival mechanism. We repress things to survive. Maybe it was sexual abuse, physical, mental, or emotional abuse, inconsistencies at home, meaning it wasn't stable. And so we repress those memories to protect ourselves so we can survive and move through it, get to the other side. It can be an adaptive response. It can be maladaptive when you're having intense physiological responses in the moment to things that don't match up. So you might have someone crying and that might trigger you, but you can't figure out why. When we unpack it, it goes back to a repressed memory. And so it's important to stay curious. And this is what I want to help you with today are some ways to safely hold space for yourself to start recognizing what might be underneath at the root of things. Here's what I know. We are in a world where we're not processing thoughts and feelings and opinions in the healthiest way. We're avoiding it. We are acting to things, but not knowing why we're getting so intense. And it's really critical for your emotional, mental, and physical well-being that you are facing your past, you're processing emotions, you're moving things up and out of the body. So it's important we get some definitions in place so you can start recognizing repression and suppression is kind of like a coping strategy and a choice. So you might be at work and you might have some intense emotions come up because you're going through a breakup, a divorce, a transition, grief and loss, and it's just not the space for you to let it all the way out, which I usually recommend if you can. If you can't, we might have to come up with a coping strategy like deep breathing, where we're literally kind of putting it in a box until we can deal with it later. And if you don't deal with it later, you're really suppressing it and pushing it back down into the body. So let's get into definitions. Okay, repression is an unconscious psychological defense mechanism in which distressing thoughts, feelings, memories, or impulses are automatically pushed out of your conscious awareness because they are too threatening or overwhelming. So the body will push it down. Your conscious thought process will push it away. We call this dissociation too. You're there, but you're not really there. That's what repression will do. So if you've had any sexual abuse, it's almost like you're either hovering over your body or you're leaving and going someplace else in your mind, or maybe you're noticing something else in that space. So you're disconnecting from your body and your emotions to survive what's happening to you. What we know is then your body is frozen in time from when that happened to you. What does that mean? It means that in order to find healing, we have to work with the body, even if you can't consciously remember exactly what happened, or maybe you remember parts of things, or maybe you don't remember anything. What we are doing is we are trying to bring up, what is your body? What are you noticing in your body? What emotions are you having now as you bring up that body sensation? What thoughts are coming up? So it might be a shame story, like I am worthless. I am a bad person. I am never going to be good enough. Those are all shame stories, or it's my fault. That might be, I feel responsible. I am not smart enough. I am fill in the blank. Okay. It's a lot of shame. And those where the shame stories are birthed from. Many times it's from repression or suppression. Whereas suppression is kind of a conscious, intentional effort to put aside, avoid distressing thoughts and feelings in order to function or cope in the moment. So if you're going through something really difficult, and like I said, you don't want to have a meltdown in front of everybody, you're kind of putting it away, putting it in a box. And it's when you don't go back to it and process it, meaning I'm now going to connect to my body. I am going to process the emotions. Then it gets trapped in the body. So what I say, if we don't want to suppress, what we want to do is regulate the nervous system. Those are two different things. Suppression is pushing things back down into the body. Regulating the nervous system is basically saying, I know I'm having this feeling in this body response. I'm going to take some deep breaths through my nose, slow exhale out my mouth, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. I'm going to feel my feet on the floor. I'm going to breathe through this and regulate myself. I might put some music on. I might go for a walk. I would love for you to journal about it. That would be amazing. But in the moment, you're regulating your body. You're regulating those emotions. You're not ignoring them and pushing them back down. Okay. This is very, very important. So many times when I have clients come in, it is so scary to speak something that's happened to you because there's so much shame in it, brings emotions up. Because I've done this for so long, and clients I've worked with for so long, they have to trust you in a client therapeutic setting. They have to feel safe enough with your body and you, when meaning my nervous system, feeling safe enough that I hold enough compassion and empathy and security for that client to go to those hard places. And that's why a therapist has to do their own work, or the client will pick up on that and not feel safe with the therapist. If you're doing this at home, which I encourage you to do if you feel like you can manage your nervous system, what we do with repressed emotions, and this is important, you need to go to therapy. I just think everybody could benefit from a year of therapy. If there's a memory you don't want to go back to, or if there's something that has been pushed down, okay, repressed for a long time, the skilled therapist can work with your body sensations and emotions in real time and create a safe container for you to be able to let your body trust the safety in the room. Then your body can start releasing what was held through EMDR. You've heard me talk about it many times. We've got many episodes on it. Eye movement desensitization reprocessing, EMDR, or brain spotting, or internal family systems, or somatic therapy. There's so many options now to create that safety, and just a therapist being attuned, but really you starting to decide, you deciding, know your body's holding on to memories. You know your body's holding on to anger or resentment or deep grief. It's imperative. And I'm going to implore this with all of my being, that you work on this, because your body will end up getting sick. We know unease can equal disease. So that means that the body has held in. Think about holding underneath the water and holding your breath and how much energy that takes. That's what's happened with repressed memories. It's held in the body, it's locked in the body and your nervous system, and it's begging to be released, because the body will shut you down if we don't face and reprocess what's happened to us. People think, I'm going to put it in a closet. I'm never going to open it up. I'm never going to talk about it. And it will eat you up in different ways. It will eat you up. It will come out relationally in your romantic relationships. It will for sure coming out in parenting, for sure. We think no matter what, we will manage it well with our kids. It will, because you'll be so triggered by things. It could be them individuating and separating because you're so afraid something's going to happen to them, like what happened with you. So you overfunction and you try to protect them from everything, which then impedes their development. Or you might get so triggered at work by feedback you're getting because it creates this narrative that you are a terrible person, you're not smart enough, you're not good enough. The shame will envelop you. It will manifest in friendships because you'll feel like, oh, I'm not important to them, or they say something that will trigger you. Triggers are majority of the time connected to something in your past that could have been pushed down or repressed or suppressed. So you have to pay attention to those triggers because they are gold, basically, for your healing journey. They will dotted line down to the root cause. What is at the root of it? So it's super important that you are deciding that you want healing and you're willing to sit with all emotions. And I do mean all emotions: anger, fear, sadness, joy, disgust, because disgust is a big one that gets pushed down and then it comes out sideways. It can come out through. And anger eats the body alive. Even though you might not be overtly angry, you might be internally angry. And there can be adaptive anger for sure. But we know if you suppress anger, you're not allowed to have it. You're not allowed to feel it as a kid. It will eat your body up. And so anger is okay to have. We have to have it to be able to set boundaries. And we don't want resentment to eat us alive. And that has to be worked on. So if you know you've put off dealing with your past, it's time. I implore you, it is time to face it with grace and compassion and empathy in safe places to free yourself to be yourself. You've probably been fawning for your whole life, trying to people please so you stay safe, which is a protective response. Maybe you're a fleer. You go into flight and you flee and you're avoidant. You're like, I don't want any discourse. I don't want any disagreement. I don't want anybody to be upset. I don't like any discussions that create angst. That goes back to your past. It just does. I really don't know anyone that's going to get out of this because we all have one of these that we go to. Fight. Fight is a little more, people that fight can mobilize it a little bit more and they can ruin relationships. So yeah, you can mobilize it, but now you've damaged the relationship you're in because you've come out kicking and screaming with such intensity that the relationship can't withhold it. And if you get super dysregulated with your kids, many of us have, that is an old response system coming in. Okay. Maybe you have a flop response or like a faint response. And anytime you get intensity, you go down. And that's also connected to, unless you have something medical going on, but that's also connected to the past. I've had many clients come in, and let me tell you, the bravery and the courage it takes to come in. And then once they get to the other side, the freedom and the healing, and it literally saves their lives. I mean, they now can love bigger. They can feel safe within their own body. They can create safety in their lives and deep, deep, deep vulnerable connections. So clients will come in and they may not tell me at the beginning about something that's happened to them: sexual abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, because of shame, and maybe because of repressed memories. And what I will tell you is you can be quote unquote normal day-to-day existence and you're going through the motions of life. You could have a smell that can trigger a memory that you're now having a flashback of. It could be a sound. It could be someone you haven't seen in a long time. And there they are. And it triggers all of the memories and emotions and shame and fear. And then your body can react. This scares people. Your body, what we call is abreacting. So think about this. If you have an experience, the experience has a sensory system. So you have sounds, you have smells, you have physical sensations, touch, you have images, and all of those things work together, okay? And you have beliefs about yourself. All of those work together in that memory. So let's say you have a memory of sexual abuse that happened maybe when you were first grade, second grade. I'm making this up, or young, okay? Or it could have happened in middle school. And what happens in that memory is it's very confusing for people. It's developmentally extremely confusing. We're developing a sense of self. We're looking to our caregivers to keep us safe and not to blame anybody because it's nobody's fault in that scenario. Sometimes there is a person we can hold responsible. I mean, in terms of parents, and especially if it is a parent. And what we know is the body will lock in all of that experience. It'll lock in images and emotions. It'll lock in sensations. It'll lock in sounds and smells. And so it gets locked into the nervous system, and the brain knows the timing. It knows location, it knows timing, it knows facial expressions. It can capture all of that. And then it's held into the brain and the nervous system and the body. Okay. And if you need to take some deep breaths during this conversation, please know it's okay. If you need a pause, if this is too much, what we know is we can work through that. We can work through with what we know with EMDR. We can work through all of the sensory system and move it up and out of the body. So it's no longer locked in your nervous system. It doesn't erase it. It makes it less intense. And so you can end up handling your kid crying because that memory is no longer frozen in time. So it decreases the intensity of it. And so we have to start with the desire to heal. We have to start with the desire to create safety enough for us to go back and unpack some experiences for ourselves. A great book that I highly recommend is called Homecoming. If you've listened to the podcast, you know I've recommended this book a lot. Homecoming by Dr. John Bradshaw. He's no longer alive, but he was the pioneer in really understanding development and shame and how things really stick with us in the unconscious and sometimes conscious. And there's exercises in the book that I highly recommend you do. And then the second thing is once you've made the choice, if you have some severe trauma that went on for years, or maybe it's a one-off event, and trauma can be defined by many different things, but you have an intensity in your body and you have triggers that create an intensity, I highly recommend you finding an EMDR therapist or brain spotting therapist, a trauma therapist, because they are experienced in repressed memory and suppression. If you've had a lot of repressed memory, you are going to be a suppressor, which means that's the coping mechanism of choice. You learn to push emotions down and try to deal with life. Those can be very adaptive. Both of these are very helpful when you're young. And we want to go, thank you so much for being so smart and helping me survive this. It can be maladaptive when you're in a relationship because it's going to feel like there's such intensity in that relationship because you haven't dealt with what really is at the root of it. So I'll have couples come in and they're triggered by their partner, and it really goes back to something in their childhood. And we all are like sick and tired of dealing with our childhoods or what's happened to us. And the freedom comes when you decide to say, this isn't going to control me. I am going to give myself the gift of working through what I've suppressed or repressed. It's the greatest gift you can give yourself. No more putting it off. We're going to face it. And by facing it, you free your body, what has gotten stored. Still going to be a memory. It's just not going to be a memory that is going to activate you at the level it does. Because what you're working on is feeling all emotions, noticing your body and asking what it's trying to tell you. Listen to it. Notice the shame story that tells you you're not good enough, you're a terrible person, you're a bad person. And we work through those shame stories so it doesn't have a grip on you. And you can offer yourself compassion and love and empathy and nurturing what you didn't get during whatever happened to you that you were meant to get. You are meant to get a loving, nurturing figure in your life. And maybe you have somebody that you can think of, or maybe it's God, or maybe it's universe, or whatever you want to call it. Pull it in to this work you're doing. Have the nurturing figure. If it's Jesus, whatever it is for you, and that may be triggering to you. So whatever the nurturing figure is to you, pull it into this work you're doing with facing your past, because it will help you move through the emotion and the shame and the guilt and the fear that you might be having based on facing some of these memories. You might be drinking your feelings. You might be taking substances to try to self-medicate your past, or you might have an addiction you're battling because of your past, or a sexual thing you're trying to work through because of your past. And you've developed many different ways to cope with it. Let's thank those coping mechanisms because you are just trying to get through it. Rather than shaming yourself, let's thank yourself for your willingness to now face what's happened. You're now willing to lean into that discomfort and that pain and that hurt and that fear and those younger parts that got stuck in that pain. And you're now going to have the freedom to love yourself and be the healthiest version of you. It works. I wouldn't be doing this podcast if I didn't know with every fiber of my being that you can find healing if you will face what happened to you. You didn't deserve it. This isn't something that is your fault. This isn't something that you need to carry the pain till your death, because it will kill you at some point. I know that sounds really harsh. And I want you to be here. I want you to be alive. I want you to be able to handle whatever comes up with love and nurturing rather than shame and guilt and shaming and whatever else was done to you, yelling and screaming at yourself. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve that. No one deserves that. Nobody deserves that. Please hear me when I say that. You do not deserve that. And maybe telling the truth feels so scary to you. And I hear you and I see you. That's why it's important you find somebody that you can trust that's either a professional or somebody that is a healthiest version of themselves. Nobody's perfect. Please know that. This is a lifelong journey for me, always will be, this work. And I love it because it will set you free on a path that you didn't even know was possible. You will make each moment count in your life. This life is finite, just a blip on the radar. And you want to live the best life possible. What's going to be your legacy? What do you want to leave behind? Do you want to change generational patterns? You can. You have to decide that you want to heal, that you're willing to sit in the hard, that you're willing to rumble through some of the dark places that you have been maybe pushed down, repressed and suppressed and avoided. Your body is going to shut you down if we don't face it. Okay. It's just the truth. And what I know to be true in every single case I worked on that was in it for the duration of how long it took to heal, they are grateful. They're grateful they faced it. They're grateful that they can now deal with all emotions. They have healthier relationships with themselves. They have more deep, connected relationships. They didn't even think that was possible because they thought they were defective or there's something wrong with them or they were the crazy one. And they learned, no, what was done to me was crazy. What was done to me was so dysfunctional and so many generations of unhealth, and you didn't deserve it. And you're turning that narrative around to empower yourself and other people to say, it's not you. But we do have to take radical ownership for how we're showing up now. We just do. It's part of the healing journey. And if you need to make amends with people, if you need to forgive people, and sometimes that doesn't come for a long time. What the most important thing is you're willing to face the discomfort. You're willing to take ownership. You're willing to break the patterns. No more making excuses or blaming things that are beyond your control or people that are beyond your control. You can blame them, but really what changes the trajectory is owning your own feelings and how it's impacted you and how you're going to heal from it. Because you get to choose. If you want to heal from it, you can. I promise you, if you want to heal from it, you will. You have to find the right people and decide each day you're going to regulate your nervous system. You're going to do your deep breaths. You're going to have a practice of gratitude. You're going to nurture yourself. And this comes with all the work that you do around this and offering yourself empathy and compassion. You're going to be your own nurturing parent. You're going to pull in that nurturing figure if there is one, or you can imagine one. Journaling is so powerful because you're processing. You're not holding it into the body. So perhaps you're going to journal. And I don't care if you shred your journal or what you do with your journal, but it needs to come up and out of the body in a healthy way, not onto other people, not onto your family members, not onto your loved ones. It needs to come out on the page. And lastly, you decide I can sit with discomfort because I can handle it. I can breathe through it. I can feel my feet on the ground. I can put my music on. I can go for a walk. I can paint. I can, whatever your outlet is. Pickleballing, but I love pickleball now. You have an outlet and you have coping strategies to tolerate your nervous system, to tolerate facing the past. And maybe it's an abusive relationship you were in. Maybe it's a loss that you haven't faced. Maybe you lost a parent. Maybe you lost a loved one. Maybe there's been so much grief and you just wanted life to go on, but you are kind of frozen in time from when that loss happened. Maybe it's time to process it and face it. And I believe in you, and you are loved, and you are important, and you matter. Those are truths that I want you to take into your nervous system. And if you need to listen to this multiple times, please do. Know I am here to walk alongside you. in this journey of facing what has been so almost feels insurmountable to face, but now is the time for you. Now, sometimes it might not be the time, and that's okay. If you're like, this isn't the time for me, that's okay. Just know that your body is going to stay frozen in that time and place. So we're not going to suppress and repress. We're going to self-regulate and self-soothe the nervous system rather than the repression and suppression. We're going to be working on accessing all the parts and all the emotions and working through shame and guilt to heal your nervous system and free yourself from the bondage of what was done to you, said to you, anything like that. I believe in you and sending you all the healing energy, vibes, prayers, however you want to say it. And let me know if this episode or other episodes have been helpful to you, and know that you are doing the most important work of your life. I'm cheering you on. Thank you so much for listening to the Close the Chapter podcast. My hope is that you took home some actionable steps along with motivation, inspiration, and hope for making sustainable change in your life. If you enjoyed this episode, click the subscribe button to be sure to get the updated episodes every week, and share with a friend or a family member. For more information about how to get connected, visit Kristen, Kristen, Boyce, BOICE.com. Thanks and have a great day.